Dhammadava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yasodhanandana Brajadhanaranjana Yamunatiravanachari Jai Ho Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Ho Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayo Prabhupada Shilo Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Haribol Nitai Gaura Haribol Jai Om Shripad Brahmansa Privraj Kachari Sadhara Satasi Simati Nani Swami Jimai Gray Sai Si Bhaktivinoda Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Rantarat Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Nitai Gaur Premanandi Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, 8th chapter, Dhruva Maharaj leaves home, and we're reading texts 62, 63, and 64. So, I'll just chant and read 62 and 63, and then we can chant 64 together. Please switch off your notifications. Thank you. Ityuktastam parikramya pranamya cha nriparbakaha yayau madhuvanam punyam haris charanacharchitam. Translation. When Dhruva Maharaj, the son of the king, was thus advised by the great sage Narada, he circumambulated Narada, his spiritual master, and offered him respectful obeisances. Then he started for Madhuvan, which is always imprinted with the lotus footprints of Lord Krishna, and which is therefore especially auspicious. 63. Tapovanam gate tasmin pravishtontak puram munihi arhitarha nako ragya sukasina uvachatam. After Dhruva entered Madhuvan forest to execute devotional service, the great sage Narada thought it wise to go to the king to see how he was faring within the palace. When Narada Muni approached, the king received him properly, offering him due obeisances. After being seated comfortably, Narada began to speak. 64. Narada uvacha Rajan kim dhyayase dirgam Ushyata kim va narishyate kamo dharmo vartena sangyutaha. Narada uvacha Rajan kim dhyayase dirgam mukhena parishushyata kingvana rishyate kamo dharmo vartena samyutaha. Mukhena parishushyata Narada uvacha te dirgam mukhena parishushyata kim narishyate kamo dharmo vartena samyutaha. Narada uvacha Rajan kim dhyayase dirgam kena parishushyata vanarishyate kamo dharmo vartena samyutaha. Ladies. Narada uvacha Rajan kim dhyayase dirgam kena parishushyata kim vana rishyate kamo dharmo vartena samyutaha. Narada uvacha. The great sage Narada Muni said, Rajan, my dear king, kim, what? Dhyayase, thinking of. Dirgham, very deeply. Mukhena, with your face. Parishushyata, as if drying up. Kimva, whether. Na, not. Rishyate, being lost. Kamaha, sense gratification. Dharmaha, religious rituals, va, or arthena, with economic development, samyutaha, along with. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The great sage Narada inquired, "My dear king, your face appears to be withering up, and you look like you have been thinking of something for a very long time. Why is that? Have you been hampered in following your path of religious rites, economic development, and sense gratification?" Purport. The four stages of advancement of human civilization are religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and for some, the stage of liberation. Narada Muni did not inquire from the king about his liberation, but only regarding the state management, which is meant for advancement of the three principles: religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification. Since those who engage in such activities are not interested in liberation, Narada Muni did not inquire from the king about this. Liberation is meant for persons who have lost all interest in religious, ritualistic ceremonies, economic development, and sense gratification. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripadamaham Vande Sri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. With the blessings of all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. So here, Narada Muni has completed his instructions to Dhruva Maharaj, and Dhruva is going to the forest. Not any forest, but he's going to Madhuvan, which is the holy abode of Sri Vrindavan Dham. And there, he will embark on his spiritual practice, following the orders of his spiritual master. Yasyadave para bhaktir yatadave tatagurau tasyaite katita yarta prakashante mahatmana. By pleasing our spiritual predecessors, all the Vedic wisdom, all the imports of the Vedic scriptures will become revealed, manifested in our heart. The zip file will unzip and everything will become clear. Pretty nice, huh? This is the most important verse of the Vedic literatures, according to Srila Prabhupada. Yasyadave para bhaktir. So if you want to learn a verse this week, voila, there it is, your verse. Okay? So, and then Narada Muni did not consider his job complete. He did not think, okay, mission accomplished, done. No, because he is Paradukadukhi, he is very much compassionate to all conditioned souls. He was considerate, and he knew what must the king be doing in the palace. He knew that Uttanapad has been very much lamenting, very much disturbed, very much worried about his son Dhruva, who had disappeared for quite a while from the palace. Only 5-year-old boy went missing. The prince, he's gone. He doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know what he's doing. So he's certainly very distressed. So Narada Muni, he went there, and as the original Sankirtan devotee, he asks him a few questions. He asks him, you seem to be disturbed. You seem to be not doing too well. What could it be? Is it because Dharma, Artha, and Kama are not taking place in your kingdom? He did not ask him about moksha, about liberation, and Srila Prabhupada explains why. Because persons who are still attached to material sense enjoyment they don't have a perception. They don't have an interest in moksha. If you're going out on Sankirtan today and you meet some business people and you ask them, how is liberation? How is your renunciation going? They look at you like, you from Mars, or where are you coming from? It's not relatable to them. But if you go up to them, even though they may be very focused on their business, and you ask them, did you make $1 million today yet? Did you make your $1 million today yet? They immediately start to smile. Try it out. Try it out. They will immediately start to smile, and they will respond. Why? Because you're talking my language. You're talking things that are relatable, that are relevant, that are actually pleasing to my heart. So, because Uttanapad, he was worried about his kingdom, he was worried about his succession, he was worried about his extended sense gratification. How is my boy doing? That's why I did not talk to him about liberation, about moksha. Janmaishvarya shruta shribir edamana marak puman kim arhati abidatum vai naivarhati abidatum vai tvasta kinchana gochara. Thank you. The referees have corrected us. And Kunti Devi, Kunti Maharani, she's praying to Krishna and she's saying that persons who are not materially exhausted, they are very much interested in janma, good birth. Where were you born? Which place? And nowadays, which neighborhood, which school? Karma. Janma Aishwarya, how wealthy are you? Where do you fit in on the status, on the ranking? What's your ranking? You can see sometimes, even amongst devotees, oh, I joined 3 days before you. I'm your senior for eternity. I'm going to pull rank on you. Ragging is happening. But that is not really Vaishnava behavior. We don't find that in Chaitanya Charitamrita, except maybe Ramachandra Puri, and a few others, but not in general. Then, Shruta, okay, which school? IIT Vala? NIT Vala? No Vala? Or Go Vala? What kind of a Vala? Where did you study? What did you learn? And Shribi, beauty. How beautiful are you? Oh yeah, I got to talk to that beautiful girl. Or yeah, I got to talk to this good-looking gentleman. Can be very misleading because it's all external. And it's a symptom of not being materially exhausted. What does exhaustion mean? Have you ever been exhausted? Usually we think it means just tired, you're tired. But exhausted can also mean you're spent, you're done with it. You have exhausted your options. You have no more appetite for something. Then you have exhausted that opportunity. So Kunti Maharani, she prays to Krishna and she says, persons who have these 4 interests, they cannot really take shelter at your lotus feet. Why? Because they still have other options. Sometimes people ask us, you chant any other song? Or why only Hare Krishna? Why not this one and that? I'm not going to give you ideas. Why not this mantra, that mantra, the other mantra? Have you ever heard that? Why only this mantra? Because this is the mantra for the persons who are materially exhausted, who have come to the conclusion, nada más, no more. I'm done with all these other songs. I have sung enough songs. I have tried enough ventures. But if we still feel there's places to go, there's people to meet, there's things to taste, what have I not experienced yet? You will have to stick around in order to engage in those activities. Now, it was good till now. Now, Narada Muni, as the perfect spiritual master and does the perfect Sankirtan devotee, he shows to us with which attitude to approach people. He was very compassionate. He was very considerate. He was taking interest, and he was very much in touch with his audience. So that is very important. Otherwise, there is a disconnect. Have you noticed how there can be a disconnect when you're not really in tune with your audience? There can be a disconnect, and when there's a disconnect, then things go in different ways, in different directions. But if you want to make impact, you have to have that connection. That's why it's important that we study the Bhagavatam. Why? Because without Sambandha Gyan, there is no Abhideya, no Prayojana. Have you noticed? That most relationships are over before they even started. Have you noticed? Because there is no understanding of Sambandha. Like, who am I and who is this person? Like here, I have Archita Prabhu, my dear friend and senior and well-wisher. So we have a relationship. We go back, way back. Why we have a relationship? Because I'm very clear on who I am and who he is. And that helps the relationship. But sometimes we're confused about our own identity or about the identity of another person. And then the relationship does not really go very well. So, Prahlad Maharaj, he's praying, Naivo dvije paraduratya yavaitaranyas tadvirya gayana mahamrita magna chitta shochetato vimukacheta sa indriyartam maya sukhayam baramudva hato vimudhan. Saying, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm happy in my Krishna consciousness. But when I see these fools and rascals who are chasing after Maya Sukha, after the flickering, the fleeting material enjoyment, it pains my heart. Why? Because I know that they're missing the point. They're just looking for something that's not going to fulfill them, not making them happy. A few days ago, I was in Monterrey, Mexico, at the Tecnológica, this the big, like the MIT of Mexico, one of the top schools, like $50,000 a year. And we walked around campus before the talk, and there was a lot of very well-dressed, well-fed, good-looking boys and girls. Yet they all had that kind of blank look on their face. They kind of disillusioned, kind of dissatisfied look. And although they had, materially speaking, pretty much everything that you could wish for, they were still wanting. There was still something missing there. And I pointed that out in my talk, and people were all kind of, yeah, you got a point there. And there's a lot of them sitting around with their laptop, with their iPad, with their phone. They build up their whole armada, their whole thinking, this is my protection, this will save me. My toys are going to save me. Like, the verse, the fallible fighting soldiers. Deha patra kalatradishu atma sainyeshu asatsu api tesham pramata nidanam pashyanapi na pashyati. We're thinking, oh, this body is going to protect me, is going to give me some happiness. Have you ever thought like that? Till little bug came along and infiltrated your system. And all of a sudden, your body gave you a whole lot of pain. Just like Solis Bhakti Churmaraj was giving the example, like this earlobe. How much happiness can this earlobe give you? Okay, you can put a nice earring in it, or somebody can go but how much happiness will your earlobe give you? But the earlobe can give you plenty of pain. Have you noticed? You're not from the generation where the teachers would pull people's ears, but we do remember, right? That was still in fashion back in the day. When I was young, beautiful, and stupid, you remember those days when we were young, beautiful, and stupid? We all had our 5 minutes, right? I was going to boarding school in the Swiss Alps, and I decided I want to be like them cool kids, them cool ones. So punks, that was the fashion back then. You had to be a rebel, wear loud T-shirts and do outrageous stuff and talk vulgar. But I tried, and I took a safety pin and I put it through my earlobe. I don't try this at home, okay? This is not recommended. It was excruciatingly painful. And then after 3, and I thought, okay, for beauty, you have to undergo a little bit of distress. That's all right. But after 3 days, it got infected, and it started swelling, and it became like a lollipop, like a ball that was oozing pus. And I had to part with my plan of becoming a punk. And it took me a few weeks to recover my earlobe. So this body is not going to give us what we're looking for. Neither will our family or our nation. In fact, if you ever paid attention in history class, you may have noticed that most people were killed by their own governments. Did you notice? No, history, you didn't do history, right? You just went straight into engineering, right? Just go for the money, right? Just pay me, I don't care. But we don't pay attention that this has not worked, this does not work, and this will not work. So that's why you need history. Because history tends to repeat itself. That's kind of how history goes. So, and that's why we should come to Bhagavatam class, because this is real history. This is the real history. We're learning about the Mahajans. Tarko pratishta shrutayo vibhinna na yasya rishir matam nabinam dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam mahajanayena gataksapanta. The secrets are hidden in guha. Guha means cave. Where do you keep your secrets? In your head? But I can read your thoughts. How? It's just a siddhi, it's just a mystic power that you can acquire. I can walk up to people and I tell them, you're 37 years old. And the guy goes, what? Do you know me? I was in Miami, also known as Miami, South Beach, and I saw 2 well-dressed businessmen, and they were having an animated discussion. But I wanted to talk to them and give them books. But I realized there's nothing I can do to get in there because it would be really impolite. So what do you say when you don't know what to say? Not the bar? Any suggestion? No. The filler statements for business people, not going to work. And buying time, they're already gone. Shocking? Any other suggestion? Any more? Any more helpful advice here? You see, that's what happens when you ask AI, You just get like a whole lot of data, but you don't get much wisdom. Wisdom means vigyan. We need realization, not theory. In theory, it all sounds great, but in reality, no. If that moment of truth comes and you don't know what to say, you say in your heart of hearts, Hare Krishna, my dear Lord, if I've ever been a good boy, if I've ever chanted your name, I need a miracle right now, because I cannot do or say anything that will actually reach these people. But you can, because you're the master of all magic, of all mystery. So I just didn't know what to say. I just walked up to them, opened my mouth, and said, okay, I'm flying, Krishna. All right, you catch me, okay? And I said, I know it's hard to be humble when you're 6'3" and 53 years old. And one of the guys went, do you know me? You know who I am? You be following me? And he got super paranoid. And I told him, I'm 6'3" and I'm 53. I know how you feel. And I gave him a big hug. And he went, whew. And then I gave him a book, and he ceremoniously handed over his $20. And we hugged again, and we walked away. Nothing more needed to be said, because everything was communicated. And sometimes there's a lot of talking, but nothing was said. He had nothing to say, and then he said it. So, we have to be in tune with our audience. Otherwise, even though we make a lot of waves and we try to hit every tune on the raga chart. By the way, nice kirtan, It means we have to be vulnerable. We have to struggle for Krishna. And then Krishna will actually manifest. Even sometimes in ways that are not so evident. And sometimes it may not be so pleasurable. But Krishna will manifest. And it's purifying. And that's the whole process of the Sankirtan movement. I was in New Orleans and in the French Quarter. And it was slow. There was not many people around. So there was one young lady in her trainer suit and with a big pit bull. And she was jogging. Not your most likable candidate, right? But at some point she stopped and she was catching her breath. So I thought, okay, it's easier to approach. I heard in a Sankirtan seminar, it's easier to approach people who are stopped because then you don't have to exert yourself to stop them. You saw yesterday at Columbus Circle, people were zipping and zagging and everyone's running around and the sharks were trying to get them. And it was not easy, right? So as she stopped catching her breath, I just walked up to her and I asked her, "How are you doing?" And she just broke down crying. She was just crying and crying. She was bawling. And she said, 3 days ago, my fiancé, he cheated on me. We're supposed to be married in a week, and everything is terrible. But I've decided that now I'm going to become vegetarian, and I'm going to meditate and become spiritual. So I say, girl, there's nothing wrong with you, It's the world that's crazy. You're all right. You okay? Huh? So, and she took a stack of books, and then she said, I'm going to go home now, read these books. So she stopped being a jogger. She stopped doing what she was doing. And she went off on a different tangent. So that's what happens when people come in touch with the internal potency, when they come in touch with the Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. A different trajectory, a different opportunity, a different way of life opens up. And that's what Uttanapad is about to experience here with Narada Muni. We're just opening up. This is just setting the stage. And future speakers will elaborate on this. Narada Muni could have said, hey, how's things going? I need a new laptop, or I need to travel a bit. I need some money, or this or that. I was just reading this morning about Haridas Thakur and Ramachandra Khan and the prostitute who tried to entice him. And Srila Prabhupada, in a purport, he writes that the devotees have no interest in getting anything from the public. They just want to engage people in Krishna's service. Haridas Thakur was just happy chanting Hare Krishna. And he told the prostitute who surrendered her life and her possessions, he said, you just give it to the Brahmins, you just give it to the Vaishnavas. And he left. He was not interested. Why? Why was he not interested? Because he already had everything. He was fully satisfied in his Krishna consciousness. On 7th of November last year, after the Kartik Yatra in Mayapur, I was chanting in front of Panchatattva, and my spiritual master came into the temple room. Water Tulsi Devi paid his respects and walked up to the front of the temple room and gave me a big hug, and he said, when can we talk? And I said, well, you're the busy one. I'm here, I'm available. So we went to his room, we talked for 40 minutes, and he asked me, where you've been, what you've been doing. But I thought it's more interesting to ask a few questions. So I asked him, what is the most important thing right now in the world and in ISKCON and in my life? And he said, after pausing for a little while, you're going to like and not like my answer. He said, the most important thing right now is to become Krishna conscious. It's not a show. It's not something external. But it's really something substantial. It's a change of heart. And we spoke a little bit about that topic. And then I asked him about worshipping Shalagram and worshipping Giriraj. Not because I have the desire to worship them, but because many have been asking me. And he said that in our tradition, Giriraj worship, Shalagram worship is only mentioned in very few places. Who did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu give his Govardhan Shila to? Raghunath Das Goswami, who is our Prayojanacharya, so is the most exalted, the most elevated personality. So he said that I have nothing against mature senior devotees worshipping Shalagram, worshipping Govardhan. But when gurus or sannyasis get on the internet and they post everywhere their Shalagram or their Giriraj worship, and then there's entire busloads of people going to Govardhan or going to Gandaki to get Shilas, then may not be so beneficial or so appropriate. And somebody may say, well, I have a Shila. Well, I have a bigger Shila. Well, I got 5 Shilas. Well, I have 10. Why, he's got 10,000. What about that one? Well, he's got 50,000 Shilas. More better, more better. I know 2 places where there were a lot of Shilas, and everybody thought this is the coolest, the most elevated, the most esoteric, the highest place. But then things went really sideways. Things went really sideways. That's why it says that, like when you're inviting guests, you should not invite too many guests. Why? Any idea why you shouldn't invite too many guests? Can't take care of them properly. Somebody will feel neglected. Then you commit offenses. Very easy to commit offenses. Somebody may take, oh, wow, he got 3 cookies, I only got 1 cookie. He got a bigger gift bag or something, and then they become upset. So, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is our guidebook, it's our the highest level of scripture. It contains all the intricacies of Vaishnava Siddhanta. So if all books went missing, but we have Chaitanya Charitamrita, there would be no loss, according to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Because the most important verses of the Bhagavatam, of the Bhagavad Gita, they're all in Chaitanya Charitamrita. We hear of Gadadhar Pandit, who approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to again take mantra diksha. Why? Because he had gotten mantra diksha from Pundarik Vidyanidhi. You all know the story, right? But then he had given that mantra to some undeserving person, a person who was not really fit, not really qualified, not really adequate. So he felt that he had committed an offense, and he felt disconnected. So he asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu if he could reinitiate him. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no. Pundarik is your guru. And he will come in just a few days. And you can ask him, he will give you mantra again. So, we should not hear or read books from persons who have reinitiated devotees, who have gurus in good standing. Did you get that? Is that clear? Or is that something weird? Makes sense, right? Avaishnava mukhot kirnam putam harikatamritam shravanam naiva kartavyam sarpo uchishta yatopaya. That we should not hear from persons who do not exhibit proper Vaishnava behavior. And to reinitiate somebody who is already initiated by a bona fide Vaishnava guru is a great aparad. It's a great offense. So we should just respectfully avoid. So here we see Narada Muni. He's giving us a very clear example. We see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving us a very clear example. Srila Prabhupada, he's giving us a very clear example. We should Follow their example and not try to be innovative, try to be creative. I know to strictly follow the easy path is a little difficult sometimes. But there is potency in simplicity. There is potency in simplicity. So Srila Prabhupada has given us the formula, and he was very meticulous. Because in his previous life, he was a pharmacist. So he had pharmacists are very precise. They're very, very correct in their dosage. They know what the patient can handle. Yes, you can fly to Delhi and you can get initiation right at the airport. Some rickshawala will be willing to give you initiation. In Mayapur, I was going for my daily walk and there was a big commotion outside. And I went outside and there was a person there with a rickshaw and he was screaming and yelling, 2 rupee initiation, 2 rupee initiation, 2 rupee initiation, diksha, 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 2 rupiah, diksha. And some people were there to purchase that 2 rupee initiation certificate. Now, okay, a photocopy costs 1 rupee, so he made 1 rupee profit, but he had customers. He had customers. There is a market for every product, especially in New York City. Have you noticed? And you may laugh, you may think, nobody's going to buy this, no one's going to eat this, no one's going to watch this. But I guarantee you, somebody just might do. So we should just have to make sure that it's not us. We are not that somebody. Yes, you can go to Delhi and get initiated by the rickshaw driver, or you can go up to Michigan and you can take sannyas before breakfast. Somebody will be ready to give it to you. But I don't think it will really enhance your spiritual life. So, we have to be careful. Otherwise, if we're naive, then we will be misled and we will lament terribly. And there is no one to blame but ourselves. So since we have these illustrious examples from our acharyas, we should follow our mahajans. We should follow in their footsteps. Mahajana yena kataksa panta. And not speculate, not try to cut corners, not trying to find a shortcut. Where can I get more bhakti for my buck? 3 for 1. It's on sale, right? It's a good deal. No, we might be lamenting. One time I was in Ghana. We went to a Harinam Sankirtan outing, and there's about 50 or 60 of us. We had a big school bus and a little minivan, full with devotees, chanting and dancing. Many hours. It was very hot and humid. After the Sankirtan outing, we were on our way back. And the driver of the school bus, he had the fabulous idea that he knew a shortcut. So he went off the main road and went into a small road. That small road went into the forest. It became kind of jungle. It became like a cow trail. And then it got very bumpy, like a riverbed. And then I was thinking, where is this going? You know, like, what's going to happen here? And then all of a sudden, we were back on some other road. And then, poof, the tire blew out. So we had to all pile out of the bus, find the jack. It's like 120 degrees. Everyone's sweating like anything. We're tired. We're hungry. You know that kind of feeling after Harinam? You just want to get home, right? And take a shower and eat prasad and take rest. So then, everybody got a little agitated, you know, and the driver could feel it. So then, once we were back in the bus and driving, he started speeding. He started going real fast. Really passionate. But then, all of a sudden, there was a hump, and then it was down, and 2 big curves. He was going so fast, we were practically flying over that bump. And the first curb, he could kind of get it, but then the second one, it was impossible to catch. So he just pulled the steering wheel out to the other side, and the big school bus just flipped to the side. It just flipped over. And it was crashing on the road. And there was a village there, there's a marketplace. A lot of people out on the street selling their things, their goods with baskets, there's women, children, like hundreds of people there. And I was watching it from behind. I was in the minivan, and this school bus was like rushing straight into this marketplace. You like the story so far? You're still with me? Okay, time is up. We continue in 3 years. So then, just about when the disaster was about to take place, there was a big pile of construction bricks on the side of the road. And that school bus just went right into this pile of bricks and pulverized those bricks. But it came to a screeching halt. And we were just right behind, so we got out, we checked what was going on. There was glass everywhere, people screaming everywhere. Couldn't get the bus open because it was laying on its door. So we had to smash and break open the back door, the back window, and help devotees climb out of the school bus. And they were all full with glass, and the bus had turned on its side, so the people who were on this side, they were now up, and then gravity, they all fell down. So people had some bruises. Nobody had broken bone, nobody died. Lord Nrsingadev appeared as a pile of bricks, and he protected the devotees. People came jumping and running from all sides, and they said, "A miracle, a miracle, a miracle! Who are you people?" The bus was impounded by the police, but the next day they released it, and we got out. What's the moral of the story? Don't take any shortcuts. You got the idea? You may think there is a fast track to prema. You may think I can go to this guy or that guy, or I can do this, kind of secret little trick, and then I'm there. But it's not so cheap. Krishna can't be captured like that. Krishna is only attracted to unalloyed, selfless love. Krishna knows before we start planning and scheming. Like mom knows. Like Mother Yashoda, she knows what Krishna is about to do. She knows he's going to go and do what he's about to do. So, you cannot cheat Krishna. We cannot cheat Guru. We cannot jump over. So these are some reflections on today's topic. I know it may not sound that appealing. It may not sound that fab, but I thought it would be worthwhile because I see a ton of potential here, and I really mean it, but I don't see that much unity. I don't see that much team play. And people going in different directions, in their different moods. Yes, there is room for diversity, but unless we cherish and we honor and we celebrate our unity, diversity will be very conflicting, and diversity will be even destructive. Have you seen how many people are at wars with each other? The Catholic and the Protestants in Ireland, they're brothers. The Jews and the Arabs, the Muslims in the Middle East, they're brothers. The different Gaudiya groups, they're brothers. Why so much war? Why so much divisiveness? Ahankar, false ego. I want to be the greatest. I want to be in control. I want to profit. I want to enjoy. I want to exploit others. Bhogaishvarya prasaktanam taya paritachetasam. Nunam pramatta kurute vikarma yad indraya pritaya pranoti sadumaniya yata atmano yam asanapi kleshada asadeha. People become so mad, they don't care anymore how destructive, how aggressive they become. So we have to stay aware. We have to stay vigilant. We may say, hey, this is not me. I'm just trying to be a simple devotee. I'm just trying to get through the day, through the week, through the year. I just want to do Harinam Sankirtan. You know how many incarnations of the Harinam Ashram I have witnessed here in New York? The Dasha avatars, yes. The latest incarnation. As I mentioned in my meeting, it's not as rapidly changing as in London, Soho Street, where every year there's a new team. And I'm like, where's everybody? Oh, everyone gone. Huh? Except the Hepujari and the Didis. Everyone else gone. Huh? So I hope this does not take place here. Because we need some stability. We need some stability. If we want to practice bhakti and actually go deep in our spiritual practice, we have to be rooted in Shastra. We have to study Prabhupada's books and be able to contextualize them and take guidance from our seniors who are here to guide us. But as soon as I think, I've got it figured out, I already know it, I know all this stuff. I heard this stuff so many times. But then, why do we have this scenario of this anachronism, of not being in sync, of not being considerate, not being compassionate? I don't care who is your Diksha Guru. I respect and love them all. Because we're in the family. And it's all right to have diversity. But there has to be unity. And that means respect. And that means respect also for house rules. That we understand what works and what doesn't work. You don't go to someone else's home and kidnap their kids or bamboozle their disciples. You don't do these things. So we have to understand our tradition. Otherwise, we will not achieve the desired objective. Questions, comments, or reflections? Not all at once, but yes.
I had a question regarding the last line of the purport, which was talking about being exhausted of dharma and kama.
Being what?
Being exhausted from...
Exhausted, yes.
From dharma and kama. And then those people who are exhausted from that are qualified for spiritual life. But I see, practically speaking, even if I have that initial impetus of exhaustion, the recurring or lingering attachment still remains, obviously. So,
well, thank you for your honesty. I mean, you're young, so it's natural. There's different stages in life. That's why talking about renunciation to teenagers is not usually that helpful. But you want to offer them something that gives you more enjoyment. Okay, there's a better party. There is something more fun to do. I'm in. But to say no party, no fun, that's not acceptable. So it's understood. And you may have to still do a few things in life because you're young in life. So that's understandable. That's why the Varnashram system is a progressive path. It's not that you jump from here to there in 3 seconds and then you bounce back and you go back and forth and you become like a chameleon, like people who change their cloth every other month or, But it's progressive. So you go progressively towards the goal, step by step, and you do what you have to do right now. And you're doing the right thing. You're investing in yourself. You're getting an education and you're getting your spiritual foundation. And then you go out into the world and you be the best you can be for Krishna. And then you gain some realization. And once you have achieved and you have exhausted your options, you will come to the point where you say, thank you. Enough is enough. But right now, that would be philosophically or theoretically correct, but it would not be your level of realization, right? So be honest and be clear about that. Like Dhruva, he was clear about that. I'm not going to go to the forest to renounce. I want I want revenge. I have big goals. I want the world. I want the universe. But because he did it in a proper way by following the instructions of Guru, he fulfilled his ambition, but he also attained the highest goal. So that is what we can learn from this story. As we heard from previous speakers, that Krishna consciousness is so wonderful that Krishna will allow us to fulfill our material propensities, but in such a way that we won't ask for it again. That we realize, okay, all right, I get it. I get the point. I tried. It was what it was, but now I'm ready to move on. And it will take some time. You can't do this artificially. Yes, you had your hand up.
What are the two places that had lots of Shalakam Shilas, and how did it go sideways?
I'm not here to give you the historic overview of what went wrong. I already been explicit enough in this class. And we appreciate all the devotees and all their endeavors and all their sincerity. But we should also see that that's why Krishna tells Uddhava in the 11th canto that we should not advertise our devotional service, because it can give rise to false pride. And that can become an obstacle on our path. That we think, oh, like in the 80s, we were thinking, yeah, we're the best book distributors, you know? So, message on all former, current, and future incarnations of book distribution. It might do better. It might be more sustainable experience to do group scores like you're doing here, team score. I really like that. It's not so important who plays the drum or who's leading the kirtan. It's more important how well is the team doing, because team wins. The individual names, they change. They keep changing. Like the places and, you know, this, but the scenarios keep on repeating themselves. So that's what we should learn. Last one for the close.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You were mentioning about different groups and all this. My question is that how do you have exclusive hearing, kind of like coming from one line, but not be so sectarian? Be like you're a sectarian person, you're not willing to engage with other ideas. How do we kind of have that?
Well, if you're deep in your own practice and you have realization, then you have also respect and appreciation for other traditions. But that doesn't mean that you change your theology or you start doing all the different rituals and all the different practices. So, yes, Arjuna, he was the best archer. He saw the eye of the bird. But he also made sure the schools were good and the old people and the ladies were protected and taken care of. So they're not mutually exclusive. But in the name of liberalism, to say, oh yeah, I'll do anything and go anywhere and I'll sing your song. You know the story with Mukunda, right? Mahaprabhu did not appreciate that he went and heard from Mayavadis and he went to other gatherings and other groups, etc. And he did not appreciate that. So in the name of liberalism, we should not, but at the same time, we should not be sectarian. We can appreciate, we can acknowledge there are sincere people in all the traditions, yet we should focus on our task. Last one, yeah, over here.
Hare Krishna, bro. I had one doubt, like you said about the relationships. When we know oneself and the other, then there's a relation. So, true, like we know ourselves, but we don't know the other person, because like we cannot judge like externally how advanced or how he is, because the bhakti is not just from a single life, it is from like many births. So how to identify like
You can identify by reading Bhagavatam. Ishvara tadadineshu baliseshu dvisatsucha prema maitrika kripa upeksha yakaroti samadhyama. A madhyamadikari, an intermediate, a more advanced devotee, he is able to discriminate. He has discrimination. A neophyte, he knows, okay, Krishna is there and the deity is there, but the rest is a bit confusing. Who is who, he doesn't know. But if you actually study and you apply yourself to the process, you will get that understanding. And in Uttam, he sees everybody engaged in Krishna service except himself. So that's the fact. So that discrimination will come through the practice, especially through practice of Harinam Sankirtan. When you go out on the street and you share the holy name, Krishna will give you that realization. And yes, it takes time, it takes patience. Sometimes we make mistakes. We overshoot the target. Like one time I came back from India. This is the last and we quit. I was in San Francisco airport and I had one small book left and I really wanted to distribute that book, you know. I'm not going to take this home, you know. I've carried this all the way from India. So I was at the carousel and there was one gentleman there. So I tried to approach him and he said nothing. He just pretended I didn't exist. So I asked him, do you speak English? Then he said nothing. Then later on, I was outside on the curb waiting for my ride. There's an older Indian gentleman who walked up to me and he told me, my name is Jagannath. My son felt offended by you because you asked him, do you speak English? And I realized, oh, I'm sorry. It was really not my intention, you know. I apologized. He accepted it. He was a gentleman, you know. I mentioned, you know, he didn't respond. But I understood. I overshot the target. I was a little too trigger happy. I should have been just, okay, he doesn't want to engage. Fine, fair enough. There's 8 billion people on the planet, right? Not everybody wants to engage. That's just the way it is. So Krishna, in your heart, he's Chaitya Guru, he's your guide. And also the Vaishnavas, if we care to listen, they will also tell you how we can improve. So that's why it's invaluable to have this peer sangha, to have this Sankirtan Yagya going on, because that will actually help us achieve our objective. I would like to thank all of you for your trust and your friendship and your hospitality. It's been an amazing week here, and we beg for forgiveness for any mishaps or offenses. Although we know there are no offenses in the Sankirtan Yagya, but if anybody feels uncomfortable, then that was not our intention. And please shower your kind wishes upon this fool so we can do something meaningful for Srila Prabhupada and the Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thank you very much. Grantarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasinubhyevacha Patitanam Pavani